Imagine watching a child that you gave birth to die a slow, painful death, and there's nothing you can do but watch. They're torturing him, they're torturing me, they're torturing my daughters, they're torturing my husband, they're destroying our family. My son, Niko Albanese, has been incarcerated for the past 5 years, and he's been in solitary confinement for that entire 5 years. Solitary confinement does not only punish the person that is locked in a 6x9 cell. It affects the entire family in a negative way, which eventually will affect the community. It's hell. It's the last thing I think of. It's what I dream of. And as soon as I open my eyes in the morning, it's the first thing I think of. Niko had the worst smelling feet. I mean, he would take his shoes off and the whole room would smell so bad I didn't know what was going on. I would wash his shoes and spray him with Lysol and make him put them outside. And now I smell his shoes because I'm so desperate. Niko, at the age of 11, was diagnosed with bipolar. That's when we began medication. Niko committed a crime. He committed a robbery. There was a gun involved. No one was hurt, but he still committed a crime. And yes, of course, he needs to be punished for it. Niko called from jail, and the first thing I said was, "Did you do it?" And he said, "Yes." And that was it. I mean, Niko's always been that honest. He was prepared to take the consequences. At the same time as the adults or the people that are putting the laws in place, you still have to be responsible. And by taking someone who is bipolar at the age of 19 and putting them into solitary confinement, it's not being responsible. Niko was sentenced in 2012. And the first time I was allowed to visit was 2015, and that was because he was found 40 pounds underweight and near death, and that was the only reason I was allowed to visit. I live in a constant state of panic. My biggest fear with Niko is that he will die in prison. My sisters won't know who he is, and I'll lose my son. That's my biggest fear. And I'll lose Niko. I'll lose my son.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the show. This is Stolen, Strength Together Over Legal Empowerment Now, and I'm your host, of course, John Anderson. And I got a good show for you today. It's a woman in the United States, and her name's Heather Chapman, and her son has been incarcerated for a robbery, which he takes full accountability for, and he's been in solitary confinement for well over 5 years straight in solitary confinement. So anyway, what she's trying to do is fight for, well, it's really better treatment for her son, who is, of course, in prison in the United States right now. So anyway, let me just get her on the phone right now. O'clock.
Hello.
Hello, Heather. Are you still busy?
Hi. Yes, I'm at the event, but
Alrighty. Okay.
Okay.
So anyway, let's just start from the beginning, because what this is going to do is, what I do pretty much is I just help you get your word out, your voice out, and the more the more places that you get your voice out, the better you're going to be heard, right? And so that's what I do, is I help promote it. It doesn't cost anything. I just help put it out there on YouTube, and wherever I can is where I'm going to put this. Okay. That's I just go out of my way to try to help. Usually it's child protection issues, but this is something that's pretty serious, and I thought that, you know what, you're very well worth having on my show to talk about it. So anyway, go from right to the beginning. So your son's name is Niko. He did a robbery over 5 years ago. There was a weapon involved. He takes full accountability. Everybody's seen the preview.
Absolutely.
And he's in solitary confinement for well over 5 years. Almost nearly died.
Well over 5 years.
Right, and nearly dies.
Yes. 2 times so far. 2 times, actually. 2 times that I know of. He's nearly died from the isolation. And what happens is, I'm not allowed to visit, so he's in severe isolation. No phone calls, no visitation. Even the guards, when they go onto the cell block where he is, there's a sign that says that the guards are not allowed to speak to the inmates in this particular cell block. No communication at all. Just, it's a solid cell door, and at reading, when it's time to eat, there's a little, it's like in the middle of the door, it opens up at the tray slides in. 2015, Niko was at a facility. He hadn't spoken to anyone in over 2 years. Hadn't uttered a word in over 2 years. And he's on a cell block where there is 6x9 cells, single man cells, solid door. And the food tray would go into like the middle of the door. Well, one inmate noticed that when they would put Niko's food trays on his door, they would stay there until the guard came around to take his food tray. And he would watch this day after day. And he didn't know Niko's name. All he knew him as his white boy.
So let me get this straight, though. The security guards would put a tray there, and then it would sit there. Then they would exchange it, take it away, and then there'd be another tray. They know these trays are untouched, and still that wouldn't set off a signal that there's something wrong when these trays are being untouched?
No, absolutely not. It was on a so-called medical unit called a TCU, which is transitional care unit. And so you would think that it's like medical people would be, walking around this unit or this cell block. But it's absolutely not the case at all. It's just prison guards.
Wow.
Now, what was happening was Niko's brain was shutting down. His brain and body was shutting down from the severe isolation. It's a lot like if you're in a car accident and you get severely injured, you go into shock. Your brain is protecting
That's right.
the body. So it's a lot what happens to Niko. He basically almost goes into shock, and his brain and his body shut down, and he just stops eating because there's absolutely no stimulation at all.
No.
So this particular inmate noticed the food trays just sitting there. So he tried to get Niko's attention, and with no success. What he did was he alerted all the other men on this cell block, and they all tried to get Niko's attention, with no success. So this particular man actually was able to organize a riot on the cell block they were in their 6x9 salad door cells, but he was able to get all of the other men coordinated and start a riot to get the guards to go into Niko's cell and pull him out.
Whoa.
And that's what saved his life. And this was 2015, and that was the first time I was able to visit Niko. When the guard went in and pulled Niko out, he was unresponsive, and he was 40 pounds underweight. He was near death. His bones were protruding. And I was finally able to visit, I guess because they didn't think he was going to make it. So, because he's on a transitional care unit, it's part of policy and procedure. There's no contact.
Well, that's not very caring for being a care unit.
And it's not very helpful. It's pretty stupid, actually. So I'm not even allowed to have contact. So these were non-contact special visits. They were 2-hour no contact visits, and I had to visit him on death row. This has nothing to do with Niko's crime. There was no one hurt in Niko's crime. It was strictly because he was on a so-called medical unit from the severe isolation.
Okay, well then, what are the reasons for keeping him in there for all this time? He's not. Is he doing anything wrong while he's in prison, or what's happening?
Originally what had happened was he got a tattoo when he first went in. He was 19, and he got a tattoo, and so he got disciplinary actions for that. He just kept getting kind of disciplined over and over for that tattoo. He was also, he was 19, so he was young, and I guess gang members wanted him to join gangs or whatever, and Niko wasn't interested, so the gangs would come after him, and they have a no policy, or the no tolerance policy. So regardless of if you start a fight or if you are trying to defend yourself, or if you just get beat up, you just get thrown into solitary confinement. So that's what kind of started the solitary, and then I complained about a guard, and that guard told me that I made a mistake. I made a big mistake. I really don't want to talk much about that, but so Niko has spent a total of 16 days in open population. Out of
almost 6 years, he spent
over 5 years. Yes. Niko was sentenced in 2012, and he has spent a total of 16 days in open population.
Wow.
Yes. So he was 19, basically growing up in solitary confinement. And I'm not allowed to have contact with him.
When is his release date?
His release date is 2021.
Whoa.
He got a 10-year mandatory minimum. In the state of Florida, we have the 10, 20 life. He should have been sentenced on, when they put that into effect, they also put in, it's called the Youthful Offender Act. And what that means is the good decision part of your brain is not fully developed until 24, 25. So for the young offenders, especially when no one was heard, there's called the Youthful Offender Act, and they should not be sentenced under these mandatory minimum sentences. He should have been sentenced under this. And that's what we thought he was going to be sentenced under. And
as far as I'm concerned, he should already be released.
He should have been released, absolutely. I mean, what they're doing, they have, what they're doing to him is so criminal. It is
It's torture.
beyond criminal.
It's torture.
It's absolute
It's the same thing that your exact same government does to terrorists, and they're doing it to their own people in
actually,
prison.
there's more rules, absolutely, and there's more rules protecting terrorists than there are of the U.S. Inmates. That's the truth. What they're doing is absolute torture. And on top of isolating him like this, they're also poisoning him. They're misdiagnosing him with schizophrenia because the schizophrenia and the effects of long-term solitary confinement mirror each other. So you're going to have the same symptoms. But unlike schizophrenia, the cure for long-term solitary confinement is basically taking you out of it or having your mother visit. Now, the first time I visited Niko, they had put me into a room. In front of me was a piece of glass, and then it was like the size of a phone booth.
Uh-huh.
And there was a little tiny window that I could see past this little phone booth. And I saw 3 guards basically holding up this very tall, very skinny man. And I said to myself, well, that's not Niko. And all of a sudden the door opened up and they backed this man in. And it still wasn't Niko. And they closed the door. The inmate put his arms through. He's completely shackled. They put his arms through. They removed the handcuffs, but they didn't remove the leg shackles. And then he's just looking down. He turns around. And he just sits, almost like a robot with no emotion, no nothing. And I'm looking, and for the first few seconds, I didn't know who it was. It honestly looked like a Holocaust victim. I felt sorry for him. His bones were protruding, and then I realized that it was Niko.
It was.
It was Niko. I thought they had made a mistake, and I kept calling his name. I kept asking him to look at me, and there was no response. Niko didn't know who I was. He had no idea. And I sat there for, I don't know how long it was, 20 minutes, 40 minutes. And I just, with every bit of strength I had, I kept saying his name. I kept telling him to look at me. I kept talking about when he was a child. I kept talking about the names I used to call him, talking about his sisters, doing anything. But I constantly I kept talking with strength. I kept saying his name and kept telling him to look at me. And all of a sudden, he kind of brought his eyes from the floor very slowly up to mine, and his face began to soften, and his eyes, he fixated on me, and he said, "Mom, you're here." I just exhaled my suggestion, so I'm here. And then I just started with instructions. This is what you need to do. Or, I basically started, talking about giving him instructions, breaking down his day in 1-minute increments, and telling him what he needed to do every day. I wanted to get him a routine, and I wanted him to follow this routine, and I wanted him to have something to look forward to, and I wanted him to keep his brain busy. And so we're going over, the first thing he needs to do is, he needs to eat. And I understand that there's bugs in his food and there's cockroaches. You need to pick them out and you need to eat the food. And then after you eat the food, then we're going to start with an exercise routine. And we're going over the exercise routine. And Niko looks down and I was able to buy him food. And so there was a box of food sitting there. And he looks down, and anytime he would take his eyes off me, I'd say, "Niko, look at me." I made him keep his eyes on me the whole time. And he said, "Is this for me?" Like it was Christmas and he was a child. And I said, "Yes." And he was trying to take his eyes off of me to his feet to pick up a piece of the food and take the wrapper off. And I would say, "Niko, keep your eyes on me." Like I wanted him to eat it, but I wanted him to keep his eyes on me, to focus on me. And it was the funniest thing. Here he is. He's in his 20s, and it was almost like a kid acts when they're really, really hungry. They they hum and they eat, and it's almost like he was bouncing and humming and eating, and he's listening to me, and anytime he would take his eyes from me, I would, "Niko, look at me. Niko, keep your eyes on me." And I would just continually just talk and give him instructions, and he's listening, and he's humming, he's eating, and then all of a sudden he said, "Mom, I don't know if they told you, but I stopped eating." And I said, "Yes, I know. I said, "Niko, why did you stop eating?" And everything stopped. He put the food down, stopped humming, and stopped bouncing, and his eyes dropped back down to the floor, and you could just see the shame. This utterly, he was so ashamed, and he just said, I don't know. I don't know." And I said, "Niko, look at me." I said, "I know." I said, "Look at me." And then I started to tell him about the effects of solitary confinement. And I started to tell him what happens to the human brain, that what happens to anyone. And that he's not crazy, he's not insane. And I started to go over the effects of what happens to the human brain when you lock it in a 6x9 solid door cell for years.
No, I know what it's like.
And
When you sit in there, you question yourself, and then you get so depressed, and then you think you're going crazy, but then you try to fight it, but then you think, "Oh, I don't care. I just want to just let it go." And then you start going crazy anyway, and then you start hearing stuff.
There's nothing to sidetrack it. There's no one to tell you any different. And
no, because they're not allowed to talk to you.
Is that you are insane,
right?
And then he knows that he's hearing voices because the isolation. Human beings are social creatures, and we thrive to be social and to have contact with other human beings. And when you
strip that away, then you're going to drive that person crazy. It's simple facts.
And you literally will drive them crazy, and they will hear voices. Now, he knows it's not normal to hear voices or whatever is happening to him. And he knows it. And all he knows is what he hears from the guard. And
the ones that are willing to talk to him, even though they're not allowed to.
Well, they would taunt him and call him crazy, and that's why you're here. And that's why you're in a medical unit.
Yeah. Verbal abuse.
And so they taunt them. And
I've seen it.
Yes, and so and then the medical staff. If you're well enough to go, you have to be on your bunk, dressed and ready to go whenever this guard walks by your cell. And if you're not, it's put down, inmate refuses medical attention or refuses medication. They don't go into this. I mean, here's Niko. His body and brain are shutting down. He's on a so-called medical unit because he's unable to be dressed and ready when this guard walks by. It's just put down that he's refusing medical treatment, and that's not the case at all. The case is that he requires it even more, and whatever medication or whatever diagnosis you've given this person is obviously wrong.
What they're doing is they're purposely killing him slowly, and they're getting off on it, is what it seems like.
Absolutely. So what they do is they're diagnosed Niko with schizophrenia, and they're giving him schizophrenic medicine. Now, Niko has bipolar, which is a totally different illness and requires totally different medication. You cannot give somebody who does not have schizophrenia medication for schizophrenia. What you're doing is you're basically poisoning that person.
He's just got to get out of solitary confinement. That's what has got to happen.
exactly. And so when I was able to visit once a week for 2 hours. And it was a 7-hour drive there, and it would be a 7-hour drive back. But I had to be there before count, otherwise they wouldn't let me in.
Mm.
Now, on the way, it would take all of my strength and everything I had to see Niko. I was handing Niko my strength.
Mm-hmm.
And when I would walk out of the visit, the parking lot was not very big. It was a small parking lot. But I would end up wandering around that parking lot for a good hour. I couldn't find my car. I could never, it was over an hour back to the turnpike on just dirt roads. And I would always end up driving for like an extra 4 hours because I would always get lost. And I would have a GPS. It didn't matter. My brain just stopped working. After every visit, I was so depleted emotionally and mentally, and I couldn't make sense of it in my own brain. Here is my child who is dying, who is suffering, who is being tortured, and I can't even touch him.
Just the
I'm
fact
not
that
even allowed to touch him.
just the fact that this is giving you these emotions, it's as if you're doing time as well. So like even in the preview where it says that it does affect you, the family, it does. It really does. It's not only torture to Niko, but to you as well. It's torturing you daily. And I can only imagine how to leave the parking lot, it would be hard to even leave because when you leave your visit, you're getting farther and farther away from the one you love.
You don't, yes. Oh, God, that is so true. You know what it took just to start the car and to leave? What it was, what I would have to do, the energy and to, when the guard would come and bang on the glass and say, time's up. And I would never show Niko weakness. I always made a point to show him, to give him my strength. So I remember the first visit when the guard did that, and I said, "Okay," and I stood up, and Niko looked at me, and he said, "You breathing?" And he said, and he just looked at me like, and it was my child who's in pain, who's suffering, he's looking at me, and I know what he's thinking, and he doesn't want me to go, and I have to walk out, and I have to leave him there.
Yeah, it's tough. It's very hard.
And every time, it didn't get easier. Every time it got harder. And it got harder and harder. But that's what I had to do to keep Niko alive. And that's what I had to do.
And I just want to mention
I
too
would do
that...
anything to have that back.
Oh, yeah?
To be able to see him. Yeah. They took my visits away after 8 months.
And
what happened was, I knew that Niko didn't have schizophrenia. And I knew that he was being poisoned. And I could see what the medication was doing to him. His pupils were dilated, and he had uncontrollable shaking, and I could see what was happening. So the only way I could get him off the medication was to get him re-diagnosed. Now, for me to ask the prison or tell the person that, you've misdiagnosed them and I'm requesting that you re-diagnose them, what they did was, they did everything when I was visiting Niko. They did everything to provoke Niko to stop the visits. So even the medical staff, when I requested for them to re-diagnose him, they would get within an inch of his face, and they would scream as loud as they can. Your mother's fucking crazy. Your mother's fucking crazy. Fucking. And my son, he's an Italian son, and it would pain him greatly that he couldn't even respond to it. But he knew that if he responded in any way, that the visits would be gone. And he was also able to call me every night from his cell. And that they would take that away. So he would have to endure it. So I had found out that they did this through the warden, as a matter of fact. The warden told me that I needed to stop causing so much attention, and that she couldn't protect him. She couldn't put a chair in front of his cell door and protect him. And eventually she went home. And she told me that the medical staff was doing this to him. So the next visit I went in and I said, Niko, I heard that they were calling me crazy. And they were screaming. And once again, he goes with so much shame. He looks down. I said, Niko, look at me. He said, look, the next time they do that, I want you to get a smile and look them in the eye and say, yes, my mother is crazy. She's damn crazy. And don't you forget it. And Niko gave me a big smile. And I said, damn right, Niko. Damn right. I'm crazy. And I could care less what they say about me. So do you.
Well, watching your son die isn't exactly going to keep you sane.
No, it's not. But requesting that he gets re-diagnosed so they stop poisoning him, you would be a bad request or something, but it is. It is. And so, anyway, they did give him they re-diagnosed him. So they didn't say they had made a mistake. They just said, they just took him off you don't get cured from schizophrenia. So, obviously he didn't have it because we had constant contact. I got a phone call every night. They would bring the phone to his cell, and I was there once a week visiting. And so I had literally brought Niko back to 100%. Now, then this was with no contact. It was just verbal communication, and we were able to see each other once a week. So when they re-diagnosed him, and they diagnosed him with bipolar disorder, and they gave him the medication that he required. He was doing very well, but I've been very verbal about solitary confinement
and his treatment.
And yes, and so they in retaliation, my visits were removed. I mean, it's once again, Niko. What happens when Niko starts to shut down is I stop receiving letters, but what happens is the letters get fewer and fewer. I can tell his handwriting changes, his dialect changes. The letters stop making sense, and
it gets more lazy-like.
What's that?
It gets more lazy-like he's giving up type of writing.
No,
and
that's not even. It just stops making sense. Just like the thoughts in his head stop making sense. It just stops making sense. I mean, sentences don't really make sense. He's just putting words on paper. It doesn't really make sense. It's not that he's giving up. It's that there's no. What happens in solitary is you lose long-term and short-term memory. You lose you lose most of your vocabulary. Basically what is happening is the brain is breaking down.
Yeah.
It's shutting down. And I can see it in the letters. The handwriting changes. It's anyway, so I found out that they once again diagnosed him with schizophrenia, and now they're giving him this medication that he doesn't require.
So it's back to schizophrenia again.
We're back again. Yes. They're basically poisoning him, torturing him, and poisoning him.
There's only going to be three options that happen when he gets released. It's either he's going to come out a vegetable, he's going to come out in a black bag, or they actually do something, straighten him out, put him in population, and he comes out a nice, clean, rehabilitated individual.
Well, you know, at this point, the only thing I can do is.
But I gotta say, he is one tough kid. To go in that young, spend that much time in solitary confinement,
You have no idea.
and not be dead right now just from your own hand. That's one tough kid.
Exactly. And that's who Niko is. And people don't realize that they always think that he's a weak person, and they have no idea of his strength. I know that I wouldn't be able to endure what he's endured. I know that I wouldn't be able to pull back so many times from near death. And I just wouldn't. I'm so proud of Niko. And yes, Niko committed a crime, and he was addicted to drugs, and he committed a terrible crime.
But he did a crime.
That doesn't define who he is.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't define who he is at all.
What's really ironic though is he did a crime. He did a robbery. He got sent to jail. But then he's getting punished even more just over a freaking tattoo. That's not as bad as the robbery.
No, it's right. Absolutely.
That's pretty bonkers if you ask me. Pretty backwards.
It is. And the entire family suffers because Niko has two younger sisters. I have two little girls that for the past 5 years, you know, they're 11 and 12. So for half of their lives, they've watched what this has done to their mother. Now, I do my very best to, you know, to be, a whole mother to them. But listen, I have 3 children, and the state is literally torturing and poisoning and nearly killing my son. And it's like a slow, painful death.
And mentally damaging the family that's watching.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Absolutely. And I've done everything. I have reached out to every organization, every public official, and explained to them, this is what's happening. You know, and how could this be legal? And I've got nowhere. And it really all boils down to, you know, Niko has post-conviction relief.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got post-conviction relief case, very strong case, and it's just filing this case to get him out of prison. That's really the only hope that I have at this point, because I'm not going to change prison policy. I'm not going to change the way things work. I don't have time. Niko doesn't have time. My family doesn't have time.
Well, of course.
We just don't have the time. But eventually, I mean, if I am able to get this case, lawyer to pick up the case, and the case is filed, it would turn into case law, in turn helping thousands upon thousands of others in the same situation. Because Niko's, unfortunately, it is an extreme case. At the same time, it's not. It happens all the time. You just don't have somebody being so verbal about it and reaching out to every organization, asking to tell the story, telling the public what's really happening.
It's because you're passionate.
Well, I will do anything to save Niko. He's my son. I think any mother would do that.
That's right.
I think any mother would do anything they thought necessary to save their child. And I've seen it with my eyes. I'm not overly dramatic. I'm not mourning the fact that Niko was sent to prison. I'm not mourning the fact that Niko committed a crime. I'm not mourning any of it. I'm mourning what they're doing to him. That's what I'm mourning.
I've seen it myself firsthand, so I know exactly what you're talking about, so I can vouch for it. I know you're not lying.
Mm-hmm. No.
Right, I've been there. So yeah, it's bad. It's really bad.
It is very very bad. And it's the truth of what I'm talking about. When Niko would call me every night from his cell, what Niko was doing was bringing me in to that cell block. I got to know every single inmate from their voice.
Yeah, because you can hear them. They yell through the crack of the door.
I really did. I got to know every single one of them by their voice.
Yeah.
And he would every single night. He would literally bring me into that cell, and I could hear when men had enough, and they would start to break down, and the screams in the hall. It was horrible.
Oh, yeah.
It was something out of a nightmare movie.
Exactly. Yes, it is. It is. And people, they don't understand it. They just think, oh, a guy's sitting in jail doing time, blah, blah, blah. No, you don't see what goes on inside these places.
It's not sweet. There's those 3 meals a day.
And it's getting worse. It ain't getting better. It's getting worse.
Absolutely. And yes, Niko did commit a crime, but to punish him to this extent is criminal. Is absolutely criminal. And what ends up happening is you have people that have been in solitary for years and years and years, and then they're released out onto the street. And then you have a problem.
Yep.
Then you have a real serious problem.
That's right.
So you can't really look. You have to see the whole picture. You have to see what's going on.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I'm at this event trying to get this dog adopted, and my boss keeps trying to get in touch with me. I guess she's showed up.
Well, Heather, I think we got enough. Unless there's anything you want to add.
You've been listening to my stuff. I'm sure there is. I just, every time I tell the story about Niko, it kind of takes me back to that place, and it's hard to recover, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
It's kind of hard to recover.
It makes sense.
Yes, it's
because there's a void there.
I mean, I have trouble sleeping. I have trouble functioning. But yet I need to function. I need to take care of the girls. I need to I need to work. I need to get to work.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm back here now, so I have to.
Well, thank you, Heather.
You're very welcome.
And I'll do whatever I can to get this out for you. So, and we will definitely keep in touch, and I'll hit you up in the future for any updates and so on.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for listening to Niko's story and for hearing.
Yes.
I appreciate it very much.
You're very welcome, Heather. Thank you very much, and have yourself a very good rest of the afternoon.
I will. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Heather with their son Niko, as you've seen with the preview that I've also put, you've seen in the beginning of the show. Yeah, that's quite the amount of torture. And of course, I've seen it firsthand, ladies and gentlemen. I'm in Canada right now, but I have lived in the States. I've been to Idaho, Montana, Colorado, and I've been around. I've seen exactly the treatment that you get in these places. So, ladies and gentlemen, he should already be out of jail. That's some pretty sick stuff. So, anyway, I really do wish the best for Heather and Niko. I hope that this process that they're in right now, which is the last process there in the United States to try to get yourself out of prison, I really hope that it does go through.